Hey y'all, it's Jess and welcome back to the garden of Roots and Refuge Farm. 8 weeks ago on a Saturday morning, I came out to my garden and shot a video. At the time, I had around 2,000 subscribers on this YouTube channel and was averaging around 800 views a day. And a few of you, along with several of my Instagram followers, had asked to see how we had companion planted and to see some of the different varieties, because some of you guys were familiar with my heirloom seed collection and knew that I had some unusual stuff growing in my garden. So I came out on a Saturday morning and I shot a video that was 40 minutes long. I almost didn't upload it because, like I shared with you before, I thought nobody's gonna watch this. It's way too long. It's just, you know, I mean, it's my garden. I'm out here for hours every day. I'm thinking, this is boring. I was incredibly surprised. That was the catalyst for the growth that my channel has experienced in the last 2 months. And it has been such an incredible joy to me to get to share this space with you guys. You know, in seasons past, I have quite honestly struggled when it came down to the end of July, whenever things are starting to die away and it's time to replant. I've had a hard time with this season because honestly, it is hard for me to move past when things are super abundant and go back into, you know, tearing stuff out, replanting, and all the hard work that transition between the seasons. But you guys have been such an encouragement to me, and sharing this space in such a public way has been the kick in the pants that I needed to make sure that it is maintained and that it is worthy to be shared. Now you might have seen my title and been like, what? Last garden tour of the summer of 2018. Well, don't worry, we'll be back in a couple of weeks. We are gonna take next week off, and between now and the next time you see this garden, a lot is going to change, because it is time for us to really fully transition into late summer and fall planting. Now some things are gonna stay the same, but we are gonna come through, we're gonna tear out a lot of stuff, amend the soil, and replant in those places. So I'm gonna take you guys around today. We're gonna take one last look at the garden where it is. I've got to do some harvesting because we are leaving this afternoon for our family reunion for the next few days. We've got Daniel staying here on the farm and taking care of everything for us, and I have committed to providing all of our tomatoes for our big family cookout. So I'm gonna be harvesting all those things today, getting together what I'm going to take with me to the lake, and we are going to look at this garden. Now next week, I'll still post a video on Saturday. It just won't be a garden tour. And then the week after that, I will bring you guys back in and we will start our first tour of the second part of the season, the late summer and the fall season, and I'll kind of show you what we've got going on at that point. I just looked down here on this trellis and noticed these squashes are starting to get a little different color on them. And here, these are really starting to get a lot bigger. Now these are the Gouda winter squash, and over here, these little striped ones are the sweet dumpling winter squash. Now all of this is going to stay the same between now and when you see it next, because we're actually not changing anything in the in-ground garden for fall. We are going to let all of these plants run their course, and as things have died back, like if you recall, I had a pineapple ground cherry die, some of my beans have died, some of the summer squash has died. As those have died back, I'm just pulling them out and leaving their space there because I have a plan. I'm hoping we can work it out by about November is when I would really want this done. My plan is to get some electric hog netting and a solar energizer and pin off small areas of this garden and bring our pig Journey down here and let her do the work of clearing out all these weeds. And once she has it completely cleared, because she'll root it up and kind of prepare that ground, break it up a lot, at that point we're going to bring in a layer of manure from our horses, lay that down, and then on top of that put in a layer of wood chips to prepare this space for next year. So the Moon and Stars watermelon was the latest to actually even get much foliage, but it's finally starting to put off a few little fruits now. I learned a trick this week that I'm planning on implementing because I'm about to go out of town, and so what tomatoes that I picked today, and I'm not taking with me. I don't have time to process. However, a friend of mine on Instagram named Alicia, I'll link her Instagram account below, she made a post saying that you can actually put tomatoes fresh out of the garden into the freezer, and then when you're ready to process them, you take them out of the freezer and you put them in warm water to thaw them, and it causes the skins to slip off, just like whenever you boil them and then put them in ice water when you're processing them. I don't know if you've processed many tomatoes, but it can be a pretty tedious job having to put them all through the process of the boiling water and the ice water in order to get the skins off, and peeling them without doing that, just forget about it. So today I'm going to pick what tomatoes I'm taking with me to our family reunion, and the rest of them I'm actually going to freeze to give that a shot. Our watermelons are looking good, but it doesn't look like they're anywhere near ripe enough to take on our reunion yet. They have not even begun to dry up at all on the stem, so I'm gonna have to leave them here, but we will probably be enjoying them here in the next couple of weeks. Corn finally surpassed me and is a good foot taller than me now. Some of you suggested that I take a soft brush and transfer some of the pollen from the tassels of this corn down to the silk of the ears, which I did do, so hopefully we get pollination and start getting some good production on this corn. Another thing I'll do differently next year, after many of the suggestions I've received here, is to block plant the corn. We just did it in a straight row this year. I've never grown corn before. We didn't even know if the stuff that was in the in-ground garden was going to grow. So throwing this in here was sort of like on a whim, just to see what would happen. And overall, I have been really pleased with the space. And here is a little Ichiban Eggplant, and I've got a couple of plants that are really starting to produce some. They're looking okay. They are nothing like the monsters my eggplants were last year. These just got so attacked by flea beetles at the beginning of the year that they really had a rough start. I am excited to be seeing some fruits on them now though. My giant beans have yet to put off a single pod that has lived and not dried up in the heat. I'm leaving them here. A couple of the plants have dried up and died, as you can see here. But these two are doing okay, and I just saw a new flower on them, so I'm just gonna leave them and hope that they can live until the weather cools off, and maybe they can put off just a few more beans so that maybe I can save some and try again when it's cooler. I am going to be doing second rounds of beans, runner beans, for the fall. I'm not 100% decided on where all of those are going to be, but I definitely want to give them another go after so many having failed through the heat. I just didn't realize the scarlet runner beans didn't do well in the heat. I'm over here picking tomatoes and sticking them in this apron. I'm going to smash them all. I better go get my basket. I just dropped this one and busted it. That'll be a prime candidate for the freezer experiment. My apron. I just smashed a tomato in my apron. So I'm gonna forego this for the rest of the tour so I don't have tomato juice dripping down my legs. Alright, good thing's nose wash. Now to harvest the tomatoes for taking to the reunion. A lot of my plants are starting to get little yucky bits like this. I mean, that could be blight, it could just be different wilts. That is fairly common for this area at this time. I've talked to a lot of other people who garden here, and it's really hot. Most of our days are in the high 90s and into the low 100s, and the humidity is generally like 90%. So there's just so much moisture and so much heat, even in the nights. It's just a whole lot of moisture. And so I've talked to a lot of local people, and they've said that this is the time of year that tomatoes really struggle. Unless the plant itself is looking really sick and seems to be something that's going to pass to the other plants, I don't necessarily pull them out just because I see some signs of spots on the leaves. Now I will prune them, and we have been pruning, but it just keeps coming back. I mean, there's more on these. These were just recently pruned. So I just get what I can from them for as long as I can. Last year, our tomatoes got cut really short. We were pulling them out by the end of July because they were planted really close together. They were not pruned at all, and blight just wiped them out. Now this year, we're at the end of July, and they're still producing. They still have a lot of young fruit on them. So I'm just gonna let it ride and see what happens. I did start some more seeds a couple weeks ago in my greenhouse. The heat seemed to be really bothering them. I am moving those cups inside my house and starting those seeds in the windowsill. It may be too late for those. I don't know if I'm gonna get anything off of those before we run out of warm days. However, I am gonna come through and propagate some cuttings from these tomato plants, especially the ones that are healthy, like this Aunt Ruby's German green. It has very little sign of sickness. And I'm just going to cut some branches and put them in water until they sprout some roots, and then plant those. Those will be my second wave of tomatoes into my late summer and fall garden. Look at this weird little guy. This is what happens with fasciated blossoms sometimes. That's funny. I mean, in all honesty, probably the way this is gonna have to be used is that's just gonna have to be cut off, because by the time it ripens, this will be rotting. Little oddity. I feel like my basket this year is reflective of something that was on my mind during the winter when I was buying seeds. Last year, my favorite tomato in my garden was Dr. Wyche's Yellow, which is a big yellow slicer. And I loved it. It was last year I did like 25 varieties, I think, and Dr. Wyche's was hands down my favorite. But the thing is last year I didn't realize how much I loved slicers when I was planting, so I didn't do very many. Dr. Wyche's was my favorite, but it was also one of the only consistently large slicers that I got. So this year I did way more varieties and way more slicers. I figured out that I actually really don't care for this size of tomato, the saladette 1 to 2-ish ounce varieties, because I like tomato sandwiches, and I also like to make sauces and salsas, and those varieties for me, these really are only great for eating fresh and on salads, which I love to eat cherry tomatoes that way. So these kind of just fall in the cracks of not really being that necessary. Well, last year I didn't know that. Hadn't quite figured that out, that was my preference yet. So I grew a lot of this size. So of course I love the Dr. Wyche's because it was more of what I was wanting. So this year, not only did I plant about 6 Wyche plants, I also planted every other large orange slicer that I could find. A mono orange, Kellogg's Breakfast, pineapple striped. I did this big orange ox heart. Now, some of them didn't do great. Like, I don't even have a mono orange plant because I don't know if my seeds were bad, but it just did not succeed. However, the pineapple stripe did, the Kellogg's Breakfast did, and the orange ox hearts did. And they're all really good. Maybe I can't tell the difference. I need to do like a side-by-side taste comparison because I still feel very fond of Dr. Wyche. Maybe because he was like my first tomato love. Now this is an interesting one. This is called Malachite Box, and it's a green tomato. This is fully ripe. This is actually my first one of these to get ripe. I just got 2. They're both pretty cracked. I think I'm gonna go ahead and dig into this because I've heard really good things. A friend of mine that gave me a bunch of seeds this year, she collects really rare seeds, and she gave me some stuff that is just not widely available. This, she said, was the only green tomato that she actually liked. So, all right, here goes nothing. I should have brought a knife down here, but I didn't. It's good. Very green inside. I need a second. Sometimes it takes me a second. It's strange because it definitely has tomato flavor, but then it kind of doesn't. Like, it tastes like a less tomatoey tomato. It's got good texture. It's got a lot of seeds and gel, but still a lot of meat. The walls aren't super thin, but they're not super thick. It's a slicer, but a small one. It's not at all sour. I don't know why you just kind of associate green things with being sour. Does anybody else do that? Why was I expecting this tomato to be sour? It's not sour, but it's not super sweet. I would say it's just got a really mellow flavor. It's good, I like it. I like Aunt Ruby's German green though. I've enjoyed the flavor of that one. Might be good to do a side-by-side taste comparison with these also. Just so y'all know, partially I taste these on camera because I want to share with you the way they taste and how I feel about it. But partially it's because I come do these garden tours before I eat breakfast. Now down here, these plants are starting to get like actually sickly. If you can see that. And I'm not surprised because these are the brandywines. Brandywines just get sick easily. I'm not the only one who says that either. So that's just a pretty common assessment. I did the pink brandywine and the quisenberry strain, I think is what it's called, and both of them are looking pretty blighty. And so probably what I'm going to do is I'm gonna leave them till after the reunion, and I might give them another week after that. But probably before we start our garden tours, these tomatoes will be gone. I think I will come and tear out these ends where they are quite sick and amend the soil so I can replant this area for the fall. Now these might still produce. I could leave them up and leave them sick and they might still give me a little bit, but there's a good chance these tomatoes are going to die off within just the next few weeks with the way that they're looking. And they could also spread disease to the other plants in the garden. So what I prefer to do in this situation is to go ahead and remove these plants, give the soil a little bit of a break, and then replant this with something other than tomatoes for the fall. Over here on these really tall trellises, I will probably leave them configured this way and do something like peas or pole beans on these tall walls of panels. Now this one's just a little bit green on the shoulders. It'll be fully ripe here in a couple of days, but that is the Dr. Wyches that I love so much. That's about the average size for them, and they have really, really good flavor. Well, my basket's full. Okay, I just took a quick stroll through the rest of the garden to find other tomatoes that were just planted here and there that were ready, and look at these Amish pastes. Oh my goodness. Look at this tomato. I'm about to pick this sucker and weigh it. I didn't grow but this one plant of Amish paste this year because last year they did so poorly. Oh gosh. Look at that. Look at this tomato. Now, I had a tomato that was almost 2 pounds earlier on in the year. I did a vlog that day, if you haven't seen it. I don't know that this one is that big, but I don't know because it's so solid. So it might weigh that much. I'm excited to weigh this. I'm completely out of space, so I guess I need to get another basket. I like it when I get a particularly cat-faced tomato, but that's shaped like a heart, because it feels like they're telling me they love me too. Parts of the garden are just getting unruly. Like, you have to move plants to get around. Here are the Wild Boar Farms Brad's Atomic Grapes, and a lot of people ask me about these because these were on the front cover of Baker Creek's seed catalog this last year, so they have gotten a lot of attention, and they're a really neat little variety. I like them. I like their flavor. Now they do grow kind of oddly sized sometimes. They are grape tomatoes, but they get up to more like saladette sizes sometimes. They're a pretty neat tomato. In the sun they can get a little more purple on them because they do have anthocyanin, but I like them. They're my daughter's favorite, so I plant her a few plants of these. Probably always grow them just because she makes such a big deal out of them, and she really enjoys having them. They're not my like absolute favorite, but I don't dislike them by any means. I just have cherries that I prefer more because, like I said, I don't love this size. Okay, I got another basket. I've got a banana melon ready. Just fell right off into this bag that I had tied up to the trellis. I need to get these guys in bags because if they fall from there, they're gonna bite the dust. A lot of these areas are gonna be changing with the season. I mean, a lot of these spaces are already empty because of things dying back and me not replacing them. Like that melon's gonna come down. All of this space is going to get replanted. These beans are going to come down. And down here is about to change a lot as well. Just going to be clearing out a lot of this stuff. I really need to do some serious amending on the soil because I did not do much this year before planting in the spring, and it needs it. My Corbaci sweet pepper plant is still just pumping out the peppers. They're so good. One of my favorite things to do with these, to dice them up and saute them with some other vegetables. I've done yellow squash any sort of green leafy things, and then eat them with fried eggs. So good. I think I'll go ahead and take these to the reunion too, because I think everybody will be able to enjoy them, and they're also great eaten fresh. I was not expecting another almost full basket of tomatoes at all. Goodness. Here I thought I was just gonna pick a few tomatoes to take with me to the reunion. The mussels came to carry my stuff for me. The what? The tank top crew? Oh my gosh. That is a lot of tomatoes. I'm glad I learned the freezer trick, and I hope it doesn't mess with the flavor, but we're gonna give it a try because I don't really have another option. That is one of the downsides of doing this, is that whenever you don't have time to process stuff, you gotta figure something else out or else it wastes. Now I'm gonna fill up a few of these little paper bags with cherry tomatoes to take those to share. And I have asked Daniel to harvest all the okra and give it to one of our friends. And then next we have to go ahead and get all our kids ready to go spend a couple days at the lake. So it's gonna be a fun next few hours, but then we really will have a fun next few days. So next Saturday there will not be a garden tour posted. There will be a video, I just don't know what it will be yet. And then we will be back the next weekend, and you guys will get to see our reset and ready to go for the next season garden. We'll probably have a lot of stuff already planted by then, although it'll be seeds, so I don't know if it'll be coming up yet, maybe. Thank you guys so much for joining me on these garden tours and for walking along on this journey with us. It is such a joy for me to share it with you. God bless you guys. Thank you for watching. Until next time.